Hi there, I'm Lisa from Mythical Witchery. Welcome to my channel, and if you've been here before, welcome back. Today I'd like to share with you a very special oracle deck. This is the Grief Journey Oracle, a 48 card oracle deck by Marion Kirk with original oil paintings painted on wood by the incredibly talented British artist Teri Cottrell. You may be familiar with Marion. She's a Scottish writer who co-authored the guidebooks for the Wandering Moon Tarot and the Wandering Echo Tarot. She's also a regular columnist for the Esoterical, an international divination magazine based here in the UK. Marion describes this deck as to provide comfort and solace during times of loss and grief. This deck launched on Kickstarter on the 7th of November 2024. It was funded in just a few days with almost 300 backers. I received my deck in September of this year, so it was about 10 months from the time the project launched until I had it in my hands, which is a pretty average time to wait when backing a deck on Kickstarter. The specifications for this deck, well, it's made with 400 GSM black core stock, has a silk matte lamination, measures 86 millimeters by 126 millimeters, so a little bigger than a tarot deck, but about standard oracle size. It's got this lovely magnetic clamshell style box, which opens up like that. And it's gorgeous. The box feel, it's got this lovely feel on it. On the back, she says, grief is a universal experience. Sadly, something that every human being will be confronted with at some point in our lives. Whilst navigating the loss of my dad in November 2020, I was looking for something to help me. The usual practices of gathering together with loved ones was not an option due to the way the world was at that time. I needed a deck that was during the pandemic. I needed a deck that wasn't tarot. I needed a deck that was unafraid and unflinching in mirroring the pain and anguish I was experiencing. I couldn't find it. So as the saying goes, necessity is the mother of invention. I thought if I'm feeling these emotions, then as a collective, more people could also be experiencing them. I believe in those moments of quiet sorrow, the beginnings of what Teri and I have created was born. If the last few years has shown us anything, it is how precious life and our experiences are. We should not ignore that which we experience. So let's open this up and have a look. Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? It's like stunning. Her artwork is just phenomenal. Inside it says, if there ever comes a day where we can't be together, keep me in your heart. I will stay there forever. And that's by A.A. Milne, who wrote Winnie the Pooh. This is the guidebook. I'll put that aside for just a moment. And we've got, that's the inside there. Love that. Little watch there. Beautiful blue ribbon. So lovely presentation. It's got this gorgeous dark blue matte finish, which is just lovely. And these are the backs. Isn't that beautiful? Gosh, they're gorgeous. Really, really gorgeous. So looking at the guidebook really briefly here, there are, including some pages for personal notes and so on at the back, 139 pages in here. They include a color picture of the card itself, as well as descriptions. At the front here, she talks a little bit about grief and the different stages of grief, which, are not to be taken as literal stages. How to meet your grief through meditation. and then how to connect with your deck if that's something that you do. But no particular spreads, I don't think. And I think there was a reason why she didn't do spreads. She says somewhere in here she explains that. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I mean, you can use this deck any way that you want to. You could pull one card and meditate on that. You could do a couple of cards. It's whatever works for you. But the guidebook is very, very good in explaining all of the cards and the meanings. And of course, you take from, when it comes to an oracle deck, you take from it what it means to you on a personal level. So let me just zoom in this camera so we can get a nice close look at these cards, and then we'll look at them one by one. Okay, so the first card we have here is Abandoned. This is so beautiful. I love the way that oil works and how it looks on a canvas. It's just so stunning. I love that we've got this little penguin here and he's on a little iceberg or ice floe all by himself. And that feeling of abandonment just really comes through on this card. And of course, when someone that we love deeply has died, it can often feel as if we were abandoned. So I love that card. Adaptation. And if there's anything true about grief and loss, it's that we need to learn how to adapt to a whole new life. I love this little, I'm not sure what kind of monkey that is there, but look at him swinging from branch to branch. That's gorgeous. Adieu. This one is really profound. Gosh, I know I'm going to be a little bit emotional as I go through this deck. As a lot of you know who follow my channel, I'm really intimately acquainted with grief, as many of us are. At some point in our lives, we'll all become intimately acquainted with grief. And this last number of years, for me, I've had a lot of really profound losses. So looking at these cards definitely brings up some feelings. Adieu. So pretty, just beautiful. Ancestors. Ascension. Caretakers. Chaos within. Love this with the bottle and it's being tossed around at sea, and inside of the bottle is a storm going on in and of itself. And even though the sea is, it's got the waves and that kind of thing, it's still not nearly as tumultuous as what's going on inside that bottle. And this is a perfect metaphor for grief, I believe. The world carries on, good and bad, but inside of us, we feel like there's a storm absolutely raging. Beautiful card. Beautiful. Child. I think the loss of a child has to be one of the most difficult, if not the most difficult loss. I'm fortunate that I have not lost a human child, but many have. And this, I think we can all sort of relate to that on some level. Some of us a lot more than others. Commemorate. Of this little, looks like a little rabbit down here. And then we've got an owl flying up top there. Courage. When we're in deep grief, finding courage just to keep breathing can be one of the most challenging things that we're ever faced with. The courage to get up every day, the courage to show up for ourselves. Here we've got cycles, and that is part of the image from the inside of the box here. You see that there? The cycles. Departure. Oh, these are so beautiful. I knew this deck was going to be gorgeous when I backed it, but I had no idea just how stunning it was going to be. It's really incredible. The artist is just so gifted. Detach. Sometimes when we're deep in grief, we need to detach ourselves from the world. Sometimes we have to detach ourselves from the pain itself to give ourselves a little break, just to breathe. Drifting. Love this hot air balloon here, but it's all still bound up, isn't it? You may feel like you're drifting, but still. I'd like to see what the guidebook says about this, because Marion is she's really incredible when it comes to writing. So she says here, drifting, carried slowly by a current of air or water, a hot air balloon slowly drifting into the horizon. During the process of losing someone, there is a moment or a number of moments where they appear to be between consciousness and unconsciousness. Some may say drifting between the worlds. There is a beauty beyond the horizon, a beauty we may not see with our eyes. However, we do see it with our hearts. The way in which life seems to drift past us during times of grief feels surreal and of another world. The slow melancholy of it all at times seems pointless. Why hasn't the world stopped? It should have, because yours has. Oh gosh, does that ever hit home for me? I used to wonder that sometimes after my husband died. I would look outside and I would see people going to work, and I would think, why? How can they keep carrying on? How can the world keep turning when my whole world has stopped? It's pretty profound, really. If you find yourself in this state, consider where you wish to go. It will take time, but even a loose notion of a destination gives us purpose and a reason to carry on. Emergence. For me, that finding who I was, the new me, my new reality, and then eventually coming out of my cocoon and emerging into my new self was huge. Endurance. I love that. That is so pretty. I love the choice of the use of the lotus flower here. Isn't that gorgeous? Forever. Love does not end because death has come. Love is forever. Freedom. This is an interesting card because when you're deep in grief, you may wonder freedom. How can death bring any kind of freedom? But she says the power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants, the state of not being imprisoned or enslaved. And she says an aspect of feeling a sense of freedom after a loss, as if what we lost was ourselves. Maybe you were in a damaging relationship or some kind, and now that it's ended, you have the freedom to be you. There's all kinds of death. There's all kinds of grief. And even if the person that we love deeply and treated us well, there still can come a sense of freedom later on. It's difficult to understand, but I can tell you from personal experience that it's true. Friendship. When I lost my husband, I know there's going to be a lot of me talking about very personal stuff here. So if that's not what you want to hear, then please feel free to either mute me and fast forward or even watch a different video. Because when you watch my channel, especially when I talk about grief, you're going to get my authentic self. Friendship. When Brian died, I had two people that gave me the most incredible support. One was my brother, who showed up for me every day, day after day after day. And the other one was my best friend, Sam. And I don't know what I would have done without either one of them. Fury. This is an emotion that a lot of people experience during grief. Anger is not necessarily, though, something that you will feel, or that you will feel early on. I didn't feel anger. There were times later that I felt anger, but not early on. I couldn't feel anger. Gravis. Let's take a look in the book and see what she says here. So she says, an oppressive, burdensome weight that we carry with us. As if, carrying the weight of something on our shoulders. The weight of our grief and loss can feel like this. During times of loss and grief, many people physically change. We may gain weight or lose weight, often as the result of a shock to our systems that the physical experience of grief can cause. The emotional weight can feel completely overwhelming, and we may at times give over to this and almost drown within it. She says a lot more in the book, but I don't want to be spending the whole day reading from this book to you. Growth. Whether we like it or not, after a profound loss, we will have some kind of growth. That is a gorgeous painting. Look at that. Guardian. Beautiful card. Guide. I really love the use of blues in this deck. There's so much of it. Home. I love the bee. Look at him. When my husband died, I started painting again. Illumination. And for a long time, I wasn't able to use a lot of color in my work. In fact, for several months, all I could do was paint with indigo. One color, and that was it. I knew I was going to get through it when color started to appear in my art again. This is innocence. And that is something that we can lose when we're faced with a profound loss. Isolation. definitely. When you're experiencing profound loss, profound grief, isolation is very common. That feeling of being alone, even if you're surrounded by people. Journey. And what is grief, if not a journey? Love that. These have a beautiful matte finish to them. And yet you can see the texture of the canvas and the texture of the paint. Lament. Gorgeous. Memories. How perfect to use an elephant here. As we know, elephants have some incredibly long memories. And sometimes our memories are the only thing that can sustain us. Messenger. I love that. Look, I'm thinking that's a raven. What a beautiful painting. Obsequies. That's a word you don't hear very often, but I believe that it means something to do with like a funeral or funeral rites, I believe. Let me look in the guidebook and the acts that make up a funeral ceremony and one's funeral rites. So that's a burning boat. Oh, I see it. So yeah, in some cultures they'll place the body in a boat and set fire and set it adrift. A funeral rite. Rainbow Bridge. Oh, I love that they've included this here. For those of us who have lost a beloved pet, we're all familiar with the concept, at least in the Western world anyway, of Rainbow Bridge, a place that our pets are waiting for us. I hope one day to find my jelly bean there. Release. Got these mountains here and some kind of like a mountain lake or river, and it looks like a waterfall, and this is floating up in the air. That's really, gosh, that's beautiful. She describes this as a liberation, an unfastening, or the condition of being made available to relieve suffering or obligation, like a debt. She says when the floodgates or dam finally bursts, it usually happens in one of two ways. We choose to, or it happens without our consent. It could be a small thing that on its own wouldn't cause any reaction. However, when it is the last straw, during a period of lots of little straws, our reaction is often disproportionately more intense than what it would ordinarily be. Please be assured this is part of the grieving process. And truly, it is. Release. Resilience. Love the Highland cow here. Definitely a wonderful example of a resilient animal. And when you're mourning, you need resilience just to survive. Just to survive. Retirement. Retirement can lead to a different kind of grief. The loss of, so not necessarily the loss of a person, but the loss of a life, the loss of a job, a career, the loss of the ability to live the way that you used to live, to do the things you used to do. There could be all kinds of things that you grieve as you get older. Retreat. Love that little mouse there. Retreat. Revelations. This is interesting with the two snakes here. The act of revealing, or is it two snakes? Or is it shedding its skin? I think it's two snakes. The act of revealing or disclosure, the revelation, of previously hidden facts. Two snakes entwined whilst heading in different directions, seeking out new paths. She says not everyone will be comfortable with a different version of you, and that is okay. Stay true to yourself and your journey. This is your life, your adventure, and above all, your decision. Secret. She says a stag and a doe walk away together, leaving a second doe behind on its own. We are unaware of the relationships between them. A secret is something kept hidden or unexplained, something kept from the knowledge of others or shared only confidentially with a few. Whatever the secret is that you carry, let this card be an acknowledgement of your loss and an understanding of your sorrow. Shelter. Love these little clownfish here. They're so pretty. The color of them against the blue. That is stunning. Gosh, I cannot get over the art in this deck. This is some of the most beautiful art I think I've ever seen in any Oracle deck ever. It's gorgeous. Here they are finding shelter from a storm which is raging above them. She says, in times of loss and grief, finding that place of shelter from the proverbial storm is often the thing we remember many years later. The place may not be somewhere physical. It might be a book, a movie, a person that we have a conversation with. It may even be a favorite song. The important aspect of it is the feelings of safety that we feel within it. Siblings. Yeah, I don't know what I would have done without my brother and my sister too. They were an incredible source of comfort to me. But in particular, my brother checked in on me every single day. Sadly, my sister was going through a loss of her own at that time. She had lost her son to a devastating disease suddenly about a month before my husband died. So it was a difficult time for the family. Solitude. This little character down here. Let me just check the book here. A cloaked figure stands in the foreground. I don't know if you can make it out. It's right here with a cauldron. There is peace in the solitude amongst nature and the natural cycles. Spiral. She says a spiral is a series of thoughts or feelings that can be overwhelming. A spiral staircase here provides access between the worlds, from the ocean of emotions below to the height of our thoughts above. Survivor. I actually painted something similar to this, nowhere near as good as this, but the whale's tail coming out of the water. I think I called it solitude, as it was all by itself in that vast ocean. This is absolutely stunning. And that's the thing. We don't have a choice when we've lost someone. We have to survive. We have to keep breathing. Tranquility. Transition. Tempest. God, the use of color is just gorgeous. I think I had those cards a bit out of order there. Probably. I've been using them quite a bit, but I wanted to put them back basically in order before I did this video. I'm going to zoom the camera back out and we'll have a look at how these cards shuffle. They're 400 GSM, but you might be surprised. Okay, so 48 cards, so it's not like as thick as a tarot deck, but still, these are black core and they're really flexible. And you can actually get quite a nice riffle shuffle out of them, despite how thick they are. Isn't that beautiful? Oh, these cards are so gorgeous. And using them and shuffling them is so easy. And let me tell you something. When you're deep in grief, when you're deep in grief, you do need some things to be really easy. So being able to shuffle a deck the way that you shuffle it, it's got to work for you. Got to work. And these are easy to shuffle. Let's just have a quick look at the fan here. You see it does fan really beautifully. So that is the Grief Journey Oracle by Marion Kirk and Teri Cottrell. An absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous deck that really gets to the heart of grief and the things that you feel and go through after a profound loss, whatever that loss may be, whoever or whatever you've lost. I can't recommend this deck highly enough. I watched it throughout the campaign and even before she launched it on Kickstarter, the little bits and pieces that were shared during the process. And I thought, it just hit me so deeply that this deck was going to be really profound. And it is. It is. This is the Oracle deck that I desperately needed after my husband died and after I lost my little jelly bean. And I didn't have it. I'm very grateful to Marion and Teri for creating this deck, for taking a piece of themselves, their heart, and putting it into a deck of cards that can be so profoundly useful for those of us who are dealing with grief and loss. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'd love to hear what you think of this gorgeous deck. Share it down in the comments below the video. I read and respond to absolutely everything that my viewers say. Thank you again for joining me. And until next time, may love and laughter light your days. Bye for now.